In the dark, cold prison of an alien spaceship, a human man named John Mercer sat with his back against the cold wall. His face was bruised, his body tired. He had no idea how long he had been there. Days, weeks. It didn't make sense anymore. Aliens who caught him were huge, their skin like hard stone, eyes glowing like fire. They called themselves the Drekkins, the strongest species in the galaxy. They had captured John during a raid on his small spaceship. To them, he was nothing, just a weak human. Then one day, the heavy steel door of his cell opened with a loud hiss. A group of Drekkins entered, their weapons glowing. Without a word, they grabbed John and dragged him through dark hallways lit with red lights. He didn't fight. He was too weak and too tired. But as they walked, John heard loud noises, laughter. Deep and heavy like thunder, they were taking him somewhere important. Finally, the doors to a grand hall opened. John was thrown to the floor. He looked up, and his eyes widened in shock. There she was, the alien queen. She was 8 feet tall, her body covered in dark, shining scales. Her eyes were sharp like knives, glowing with a purple light. She wore a crown of bone and metal. Her presence made the air heavy. She looked at John and laughed, a cold, cruel sound. "So this is the human," she said, her voice deep and echoing. "This small, soft creature. I expected more." Aliens around her laughed too, mocking John. One of the Drekkins stepped forward. "Your Majesty, there is a saying among some, that humans can breed with anything. Even you, my queen." The queen raised an eyebrow, then chuckled. "Breed? With this? That is a joke." But then, another alien laughed and said, "Perhaps you are afraid, my queen. Afraid the human might survive your strength." The queen's eyes narrowed. She stood from her throne, her tall frame towering over everyone. "Afraid? I fear nothing." "Very well, let us test this theory." The hall fell silent. John tried to stand, but his legs shook. The queen walked towards him, her steps heavy and slow. She looked down at him with disgust. "Listen, human," she said. "You are nothing, a worm. But you have been given a strange honor. I will use you, once. If you survive, perhaps you are not as weak as I think." John looked up, his lips dry. He wanted to speak, to fight, but his body was too weak. He could only nod slightly. The queen laughed again and ordered her guards. "Take him to my chamber. If he dies, feed his body to the beasts." Drag John again, but this time, not to a cell, to the queen's private chamber. It was huge, filled with strange lights, alien technology, and the scent of something wild. John was thrown onto a soft bed, the only soft thing he had felt in weeks. Before he could move, the queen entered the room. She looked at him like a hunter looks at prey. "I should crush you now," she said, walking closer, "but no. Let's see if humans are really as as they say." John's heart pounded in fear, but somewhere deep inside, a spark of defiance lit up. He thought to himself, "If I die, I'll die fighting, even if it's in a way I never imagined." Then the door closed behind the queen. The lights dimmed. The camera would fade to black here. The audience left wondering what happened in that room. The next scene, the grand hall. Throne again. She looked calm, but her mind was not. She thought about the human. He was still alive. Strange. Her body felt different. She ignored it, thinking it was nothing. The aliens mocked her again. "Did the humans survive, my queen?" One asked with a grin. The queen smiled coldly. "He lives. But for how long, we will see." But deep inside her, something was already changing. Cliffhanger ending of part 1 that night. As the queen stood before her mirror, she touched her stomach and frowned. There was a strange warmth inside her, a pulse that was not her own. Her eyes widened. Impossible, she thought. I cannot breed with a human. But the feeling was real, and it was growing. The screen fades out. The audience left with one burning question. What has the queen just discovered inside her? Asterisk, the alien queen stood alone in her chamber, staring at her reflection in a tall, cracked mirror. Her purple eyes, always sharp and cold, now looked uncertain. She touched her stomach again. The strange warmth she felt had not faded. In fact, it was stronger. No, she thought, this cannot be. She was the most powerful of the Drekkins. Her body was built for war, not for weakness. She could crush bones, tear through steel, ... And yet, her body was betraying her. She summoned her royal healers, sharp-clawed creatures who knew the secrets of alien biology. They examined her with cold tools, glowing devices, and strange sounds. After hours of tests, the head healer stepped back, his eyes wide with fear. "What is it?" the queen demanded. The healer hesitated. "My queen, ... You are pregnant." The chamber fell silent. Not even the machines dared to hum. "Lies," the queen roared, her voice shaking the walls. "That is impossible." But the healer shook his head. "It is true." And the child. "It is unlike anything we have seen before. Not fully Drend, not fully human, a hybrid." The queen grabbed the healer by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "If you are wrong, I will rip you apart." But the healer croaked, "I speak only the truth, my queen." She dropped him, her mind racing. She had treated the human like a joke, a plaything. Never had she thought that something like this could happen. In the dark prison cell, John Mercer sat quietly, his body still healing. He didn't know what had happened to him exactly. He remembered pain, strange sensations, and the queen's eyes watching him with curiosity, and something else. Then the guards came again. This time, they didn't beat him. They dragged him back to the queen's hall. John stood before her throne, weak but defiant. The queen looked down at him, her face cold, but her eyes ... different. There was a flicker of something else. "Fear? No. Curiosity? You did something to me, human," she said. John raised an eyebrow. "I did nothing. You're the one who's silenced," she snapped. "My body changes, in ways it never should. You will tell me what you did." John smirked, despite his weakness. "Maybe humans aren't as weak as you thought." The queen stood up, towering over him. "Be careful, human. You live only because I allow it." John looked her in the eyes. "Or maybe you need me now." The hall grew quiet. The alien guards exchanged looks. No human had ever spoken to the queen like that and lived. The queen's eyes glowed brighter. But she did not kill him. Instead, she said, "Take him to a better cell. Feed him. Keep him alive." John was dragged away again, but this time treated slightly better. Meanwhile, rumors spread through the Drekkin Empire. Whispers of the queen's condition leaked into the shadows. Some laughed behind her back, others planned. A pregnant queen was a weak queen, and weakness was not tolerated. In the secret corners of the empire, rivals plotted her fall. Assassins sharpened their blades, waiting for the right moment, but the queen was not foolish. She knew the danger. She began preparing her armies trained harder. Her palace guarded like never before. Yet deep inside, she still felt the pulse inside her belly. Growing stronger each day at night alone, she stared at her stomach in silence. She could feel it moving now. A life, half her, half human. She hated the thought. Yet, ... Part of her wondered, what kind of being could survive between two such different worlds? Was it a mistake? Or a new power that no one had ever seen? Cliffhanger ending of Part 2. As the queen stood by the window of her chamber, she watched the endless stars. Far away in the dark corners of space, an old enemy of the Drekkins watched too. Secret race, long hidden, heard the rumors, ... Feared what the hybrid child could become, they whispered in their own dark halls. If the queen's child is born, the galaxy itself may change. The screen fades to black. The alien queen, Zira, stood alone in her private chamber, her hand resting on her stomach. She could no longer deny it. The child growing inside her was real and growing fast. She hated the feeling of weakness, of her body changing beyond her control. But what she hated more was not knowing what she was carrying. What if it's a monster, she thought. What if it's more human than Drekken? Or worse, ... What if it's something new? Something I can't control? She couldn't risk the unknown. She needed answers. "Bring me the human," she ordered. John Mercer was sitting in his upgraded cell when the guards came. They didn't beat him this time. Instead, they marched him to the Queen's chamber again. He stepped inside and saw her standing there. Her towering frame cloaked in a black robe. But her eyes, they weren't just cold anymore. It's uncertain. "You're looking better," John said with a smirk. "Prison food must agree with me." The Queen didn't laugh. She walked closer and pointed to her stomach. "Is your doing human? You will tell me everything you know about human breeding. About ... hybrids." John raised an eyebrow. "I'm not a scientist. I'm just a pilot." "Then learn fast," she growled. "Because if this thing inside me becomes a threat, I'll start by tearing you apart." John looked at her closely, saw something he didn't expect. Not just anger, but fear. For the first time, the great alien queen was afraid. Took a slow breath. This was his chance. "Let me help you," he said. "It's really a hybrid. I'm the only one who can teach you what it might need, or what it might become." The Queen stared at him, her eyes glowing. But she didn't trust her own people either. "Very well, human, you will stay alive." 4. "Now," she ordered her guards, "move him to better quarters. He is under my protection." The guards hesitated but obeyed. Days passed. The Queen's body changed more rapidly than any Drekken had ever seen. Her strength returned, but it felt different. She could feel the child's power inside her, a strange, wild energy she couldn't understand. John was given access to books, alien data, and anything he asked for. He studied, learned, guessed, but even he didn't know what kind of child would be born from a human and a Drekken. Meanwhile, the Drekken court watched with growing concern. Many of the Queen's advisors whispered that the child should be removed, that the Queen was tainted, but no one dared say it to her face. Not yet. One night, the Queen summoned John again. She looked pale, her eyes heavy with sleepless nights. "Can feel it moving," she whispered. "Strong, too strong." John frowned. "Maybe it's growing faster than normal. Maybe the mix of human and Drekken DNA is ... unstable." The Queen grabbed his arm, her grip like iron. "If this child is unstable, it could destroy me from the inside." John looked at her hand on his arm, then back into her eyes. "It could be something new, something stronger than both of us." The Queen let go, her mind racing. For the first time in her life, she wasn't sure if she wanted to destroy the unknown or protect it far away. In the distant reaches of space, a dark council of an ancient alien race watched. They had heard the rumors of the Drekken Queen's condition. They feared the idea of a hybrid between human and Drekken. One of them spoke, his voice cold and ancient. "If that child is born, it could change the balance of the galaxy. It must not survive." They sent word assassins would soon be on their way to the Drekken Queen. Cliffhanger ending of Part 3, back in the Queen's chamber. Late at night, she stood by the window, staring at the stars. John sat nearby, quietly watching. Then suddenly, the Queen gasped. She clutched her stomach and dropped to her knees. "What's wrong?" John rushed to her side. Her breathing was heavy. "It's coming. ... too soon." John's eyes widened. "Already? That's impossible." The Queen looked at him with pain and fury. "If I die, human, protect the child." John nodded, though. His mind screamed in confusion. The screen fades to black. The audience left with one thought. What kind of child is about to be born? And will it even survive? The palace was dead silent, but John Mercer was wide awake. He sat in the dark, watching over the Queen. She lay on a massive bed, breathing heavily, her body still recovering. Hours ago, she had nearly collapsed. The child inside her was growing too fast, pushing her body to the limit. John didn't know what to do. But one thing was clear. If the Queen died, the palace would fall into chaos. And he would not survive long. Suddenly, a noise. soft. Quick. Not like the heavy footsteps of the Drekken guards. It was too light, too careful. John's ears perked up. He grabbed a sharp piece of metal he had hidden under the bed. He crept to the door. Then a shadow moved. A tall figure, cloaked and armed with thin, sharp blades, slid into the chamber, silent as death. John didn't think. He lunged, driving the metal shard into the assassin's side. The figure hissed in pain but struck back, slashing John's arm. They fought, rolling across the cold floor, the assassin swift and trained. But John was desperate, and desperation gave him strength. He grabbed a fallen blade and stabbed the assassin's neck. The figure gasped, then fell still. Breathing hard, John looked to the queen. She was awake, her eyes burning with anger. "An assassin," John said, panting. "They came for you." The queen stood, weak but furious. She grabbed the dead assassin's mask and ripped it off. The face underneath was not Drekken. It was something else, gray-skinned, with sharp black eyes. She knew that face. "The Varnik," she whispered. "I should have known." John frowned. "Who are they?" The queen's voice was cold. "An ancient enemy. They fear what I carry. They fear our child." Later, the queen summoned her most loyal general. She stood tall again, her pride returning despite her pain. "There are conspiracies inside my walls," she growled. "Mind them. Kill them." John stood beside her, his arm bandaged. "You can't trust your own people." The queen looked at him. "Then I'll trust you, human." "You've killed one assassin already." John raised an eyebrow. "Me? I'm no spy." "You're clever. You see what others miss." John thought for a moment. He had no family, no ship, no way back home. But here, he had something to fight for, even if it was a strange, half-alien child. "Fine," he said, "but I want something in return." The queen smiled slightly. "You are bold. What do you want?" John smirked. "When this is over, I want my freedom." The queen nodded. "If you live that long, you'll have it." John began watching, listening. He walked the halls of the palace, unnoticed by many. He heard whispers, saw secret meetings, learned who looked nervous when the queen's name was spoken. Slowly, a map of betrayal formed in his mind. But danger was everywhere. One night, John was ambushed by 3 assassins in a dark hallway. He fought hard, using alien weapons, tricks, and sheer human stubbornness. He killed 2, but the 3rd escaped. Bleeding, John returned to the queen. "You're useful after all," she said, helping him sit. "You're welcome." John grinned. Despite the pain, they shared a quiet moment. The great queen and the lone human, both trapped by fate. Meanwhile, deep in space, the Varnak Council met. Cold, cruel creatures, they discussed the queen's child. "If the hybrid lives," one hissed, "it could unite humans and Drekkens. That cannot happen." They sent more assassins, more spies. They were ready to burn the palace if needed. The palace was burning. Explosions shook the ground. Walls cracked. Alien screams echoed in the air. The Varnak assassins had come not in secret this time, but in full force. Their ships hovered over the city, firing down beams of destruction. The sky was blood red. Inside the royal chamber, John Mercer stood with a stolen blaster in his hand, breathing hard. His face was bruised, his body sore from days of fighting and surviving, but then a sound behind him, a gasp, cry. John turned quickly and froze. The queen, mighty and feared by all, was on her knees, her hands gripping her belly, her face twisted with pain. "It's time," she growled. John's eyes widened. "Now, in the middle of a war." The queen looked at him with pure fury. "The child doesn't care for war. It's coming now." John rushed to her side, unsure what to do. He had never delivered a baby, and certainly not an alien one. "What do I do?" he asked, panic in his voice. The queen grabbed his collar, her grip weak but still terrifying. "If I die, ... Protect my child. That's an order." John nodded. his heart pounding. He could hear the battle outside, the walls shaking as enemy forces broke closer. But here, a different battle was being fought. The battle to bring a new life into the world. The queen lay on her side, her breathing heavy, her claws digging into the floor. Her scales glowed faintly, her body in a state no Drekken had ever known. John gathered cloth, water, anything he could find. He had no idea what a Drekken birth looked like, but he remembered what little medical training he had back on Earth suddenly. The queen let out a deep, echoing roar, not of anger, but of pain. John saw movement, a shape emerging, slick and glowing with faint light, a hybrid half-human, half-Drekken. The child was small, but its body shimmered with strange patterns. Its skin, a mix of dark scales and soft flesh. Its eyes opened, one glowing purple like the queen, the other, deep blue, like a human. It stared at John, silent, watching. John carefully lifted the baby. It was warm, and powerful. He could feel energy vibrating through its tiny body. The queen's eyes fluttered open. She looked weak, her breath shallow. "Show me, she whispered. John placed the child beside her. She looked at it, her fierce eyes softening, something no one in the galaxy had ever seen. She smiled. "It lives, it's strong." Her eyes closed. She fainted, too weak to stay awake. John sat there, holding the hybrid child in his arms, staring at its strange face. "I guess you're special," he muttered. "But I've got no idea how to raise you." Suddenly, footsteps. John stood, blaster ready. A group of Varnak assassins burst into the room, weapons drawn, eyes locked on the queen and the child. "There it is," one of them hissed. "Kill the hybrid." John's grip tightened on the blaster. He stood between the assassins and the baby. "Over my dead body," he said. The assassins smiled. "As you wish." Outside the chamber, the queen's loyal guards fought to break through, hearing the sounds of battle inside. But inside, John fought like a man possessed. He shot, stabbed, and punched, protecting the baby with every ounce of strength he had. Left, he was just a human, no special powers, no alien strength. But his will was unbreakable. One by one, the assassins fell. At the end, John stood bleeding, barely alive, but still holding the baby close. The queen stirred weakly, her eyes opening again. She saw John standing over the dead assassins, her child safe in his arms. She smiled faintly. "You fought well, human." John chuckled weakly. "Yeah, well, I like the kid already." 3 weeks had passed. The war had calmed. The fires were out. The invaders had been pushed back, not by armies, but by fear. Word had spread. A child had been born. Not just any child. A hybrid. Half-human, half-Drekken. Stronger than either. And now, the galaxy watched inside the repaired palace, a chamber lit with soft lights. The hybrid child lay sleeping in a special glass cradle. The baby's name was Kale, a name chosen by both John and the queen. It meant new fire. In the Drekken language, Kale looked small. But strange things happened when he was near. Plants grew faster. Machines sparked. Drekken warriors felt uneasy. Even the queen's guards, the strongest in her empire, refused to stay near the cradle for long. John sat nearby, staring at the child. "He doesn't cry," John said to the queen one night. "He just watches, like he's already thinking." The queen nodded slowly. Her strength had returned, but her heart had changed. "He is not like us," she whispered. "Not Drekken. Human. Something more." One morning, an accident proved it. A guard bot malfunctioned near the nursery. Its systems went wild and it turned violent. It charged toward Kale's cradle with spinning blades. John shouted. The queen rushed forward, but Kale opened his eyes. The robot stopped in midair, frozen, like time had stopped around it. Then, without a sound, it exploded, pieces flying across the room like dust in the wind. Kale blinked once, then smiled. John stared in shock. "What?" Did he just do? The queen stepped forward, stunned. He didn't even move. He just ... thought. News of the event spread like wildfire. The alien court was shaken. Some called Kale a god. Others, a weapon. Many were afraid. A powerful voice rose from among the Drekkins, General Varnix, a war-hardened leader who hated humans. He stood in the queen's throne room and declared that child is unnatural. He must be studied, controlled. Controlled. Queen rose from her throne, her voice like thunder. Speak again, Varnix, and I will burn your bones to ash. Varnix did not speak again that day, but he did not forget. Meanwhile, in space, new eyes watched from far away. A powerful alien race, the Sithari. Old and secret had heard of Kale. They spoke through glowing orbs, ancient voices whispering, "The hybrid is here. A bridge between two worlds. If he lives... the galaxy may unite or burn." They began to move. Back on the palace grounds, Kale grew faster than normal. What would take human babies years took him only weeks. He could sit, crawl, even speak short words in both languages. He said one day, pointing at John. John froze. Did he just... The queen smiled, a real smile, soft, strange on her face. He chose you first. John didn't know what to say. Part of him still felt like a prisoner, tool. But now, he felt like a father. That night, Kale had a vision. He awoke with glowing eyes, whispering in an ancient tongue no one had taught him. The queen and John rushed to his side. Kale looked up at them and said, "In perfect Drekkin, danger is coming. Black ships. Fire in the sky." John and the queen exchanged looks. He was warning them at only a few weeks old. The sky burned red. The Sithari armada had arrived, their black warships blocking out the stars. They came with one goal: kill the hybrid child. In the Drekkin palace, alarms rang. Soldiers scrambled, cannons loaded. The queen stood at the highest tower, her eyes glowing with fury. Beside her stood John Mercer, armor strapped over his human body, a blaster in hand. He was not a soldier, not really, but he was ready to die fighting. In the middle of them stood Kale, only a few months old, yet already walking, talking, and seeing more than any being his age. Kale stared at the burning sky. "They've come," he said softly. "They fear me." The queen kneeled beside him. "They should." John looked at the boy. "What will you do?" Kale turned his head, eyes glowing blue and purple. "I will show them who I am." The queen summoned her armies. John led a small human-trained squad, those loyal to him. Men and women saved from slavery. Above, the Sithari ships began their attack. Energy beams tore through the sky, blasting towers and walls. But the Drekkins fought back. Ships soared into space, claws and cannons ready. On the ground, Sithari shock troopers landed tall, gray, wrapped in dark armor, faces hidden behind sharp masks. They pushed forward, slicing through defenders. But when they reached the palace gates, they stopped. Kale stood alone before them, small but unafraid. The Sithari aimed their weapons. "The child dies now," their leader growled. Kale raised his small hands, and the air... shattered. Gravity broke, sound warped. The ground trembled under his power. Kale lifted every enemy soldier into the air with only his mind. They screamed. Their weapons fell. Then... In a flash of light they were gone, turned to dust. John watched with wide eyes. "How?" The queen smiled proudly. "My son." But the battle was not over. The Sithari commander, a being of pure psychic force, landed in a beam of red light. His body glowed, his voice like metal scraping stone. "You are powerful, child," the commander said. "But power alone is not. Destiny." Kale stared back. "Then come and change my destiny." They fought not with weapons, but minds. Energy waves shook the air. The sky itself cracked. John and the queen could only watch, shielding their eyes. For every attack the commander sent, Kale pushed back stronger. And then Kale's voice boomed. You wanted to destroy me because you feared I'd unite the galaxy. We're right. With a final burst of energy, Kale unleashed a storm of light. The commander screamed as his body was torn apart. Atom by atom, silence followed. The Scytheri ships, seeing their leader fall, retreated into the blackness of space. The war was over. On the broken palace steps, John sat catching his breath. The Queen stood beside him. Kale walked up to them, his eyes calm now. It's done, Kale said softly. John looked up. What now, kid? Kale smiled faintly. Now, we build. Queen placed a hand on her son's shoulder. You are the bridge between us, Kale. Human and Drekken. Through you, we change. John chuckled. Guess I'm stuck as your babysitter, huh? Kale grinned. You're my father.
Oh.
John's smile faded into something deeper. Pride. Epilogue. Years passed. The galaxy changed. Under Kale's rule, Drekkens, humans, and other species began to unite. War didn't vanish, but peace was stronger. John became a leader of human Drekken alliances. The Queen stood tall as ever, not just a ruler, but a mother of the most powerful being in the galaxy. And Kale stood under the stars, grown, watching. New worlds form alliances. His voice echoed in the minds of all. I am Kale, the child of two worlds, and I will shape the future. The screen fades to black.